Hi friends, and welcome back to a new video. I've recently played quite a big gig in Berlin, and I thought this would be a nice opportunity to give you 5 tips for playing live as a live act. Before we dive into the 5 tips, just a quick reminder that I'm giving a workshop in the Ableton headquarters in Berlin on the 13th and the 14th of December, and we still have some slots open. I do it together with my good friend Mordio. We will dive into everything Ableton Live related. I will give you deep dives on move and push, and I think it will be a really nice 2 days that we spend together and learn electronic music production. So if you're starting out or if you're intermediate level, I think this will be great for you to learn some stuff. The links are down in the video description, and there you can learn more about the workshop. And now let's dive into the 5 tips for playing live as a live act. Tip number 1 is limit yourself. I've started playing live on using only the Digitakt and the Digitone, and it was actually quite rewarding because the devices in itself are quite limiting and my options were limited, which is great because if you have too many options, you can get lost very quickly. After I switched to a hybrid setup, I was like, okay, I need to now embrace everything into my live setup. So I played with Push 2, with the Moog Mother 32, with Ableton Live, with the Digitakt and the Digitone, and that was just too much. I felt very stressed on stage. It was too many things to take care of at the same time. So from there on, I constantly slimmed down my setup again, and now I landed at the Moog Sub 25 and the Push 3 standalone. So I felt for myself that really limiting yourself not only makes it easier to keep an overview of what you're doing on stage, but it also really enhances your creativity because limitation always forces you to find some ways around certain obstacles that you're facing, to think outside of the box and to squeeze the most out of the devices that you have. So I can only encourage you, especially when you're playing your first live gigs, limit yourself. Don't try to take your whole studio with you to the gig. Choose carefully which devices to take and then really focus on those and have a great time on stage. Tip number 2 is to be technically prepared for every scenario. That means one thing that I've learned, for example, take cinch adapters. You know, these small adapters that go from your jack to cinch, because if the venue only has a DJ mixer, it's really nice to have those to be prepared to connect your gear to the DJ mixer. Second thing, definitely take headphones. Headphones, super important. You can't really rely on the monitor boxes on stage. Sometimes there aren't even any. And maybe where you're standing, I actually had this in Berlin, where I played, the sound was super boomy and I didn't really hear my highs and mids super good. So I had to rely on my headphones. And a bonus tip here is, what I like to do is use hearing protection under your headphones. I know this sounds weird, but if you only use your headphones and the venue is extremely loud, you don't hear your own signal. So I use hearing protection, then my own headphones, and then I can crank up the volume until I only hear my own mix. It doesn't damage my ears. I still hear myself perfectly. That works great. Next step of that would be obviously to play with in-ear monitoring, but if you don't have that, hearing protection and headphones are your friend. Tip number 3 is to check your setup outside of your studio environment. This has really become one of my most important habits, and it's to prevent that I forget anything or that my setup is not working as it should. So what I do is I kind of like build down everything that you see here behind me and mostly build it up on the kitchen table here in my flat. This forces me to use only the cables that I take to the gig with me, audio cables, MIDI cables, but also power adapters. And this way I can check that everything is working smoothly. I then build up the setup there, connect everything as I would at the venue, and then rehearse and see if everything is working smoothly. This really helps to ensure a smooth rundown, a smooth build up also for yourself, because you practice to build up your setup in a quick way, and this can really help to make the performance day a little bit smoother. So I can just recommend it, and it's also sometimes nice to play a setup outside of your used environment. Tip number 4 is be flexible and pay attention to the audience in the room. I've seen a lot of people play live shows who are just focused on their own gear, and you can really see that they're just trying to work through their set, but they're not really connecting to the audience. They do their thing, but they don't really pay attention to the audience. And the cool thing is, playing a live show, you have a lot of flexibility. So you can, for example, decide if there is a pattern that really flows well and that the audience really reacts to. You can see and hear the expressions of the people. You can stick with that for a little longer, even if you didn't plan it in the first place. When you planned your set, you can then stay on that a little longer. While you also might find some patterns that you thought, oh, these are amazing, that the audience and maybe also yourself in the moment don't really connect to it. So then you can move on from these patterns a little bit quicker and stick with those where you really have the feeling this works great for me, but also for the audience. So keep that flexibility, be really in the moment and see how the people react, how also you yourself react to the music that you're playing, and then take spontaneous decisions on what to embrace more and what to move away from a little bit quicker. And tip number 5, probably the most important one, don't be too perfectionistic and embrace mistakes. I think there's no setup in the world that goes without mistakes, and mistakes are something really beautiful. In the beginning, when I started, I always wanted to have everything perfect. So I really forced myself to a perfect layout, a perfect structure to follow. And yeah, it just stressed me in the end. So when I started to play more and more live, I realized that making mistakes actually is something beautiful, because mistakes help you to do something unpredicted that you would not really think of. So for example, when I played in my last gig, I played some live leads on the Moog and then I hit a wrong note. And the note was completely out of key, but instead of kind of like acting as if it was a mistake, I repeated it. So I played the note again, then I played a right note that was in key, then I played the wrong note again, and so on. And with things like that, you not only overplay your mistakes, but you also embrace these mistakes as part of your performance and make a performance technique out of it. Because sometimes notes that are out of key can also cause some dissonance that can be really nice. So yeah, I can just encourage people to embrace that and have fun doing that. And that's it for this week's video. I would love to hear actually from you. If you have any more tips that I didn't mention for playing live that you would recommend for other live acts who are just starting out or even are a little bit further on their journey. I also want to learn myself, so please let us know down in the comments. I would love to see a little discussion going on some tips that you have. And with that, I thank you a lot for tuning in. Stay creative, and I see you again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.